I get you.
That's what I put. Yeah. All right, you guys, we're live. This is
Okay.
our Bible study, the very first one of this new year, you guys. And so it is January the 5th, 2026. We are still in this book and we will be till the end of time. And so, not really, but it is going to take us a minute to get through it. So let's go ahead and see. We are actually on day two.
Day two.
Day two on week, or they actually call it, I thought it was week two. They actually call it chapter two. Did y'all notice that? So chapter
Yeah.
two, day two is page 30 is the page it's on. And I may just need to remind my little people real quick. Why don't I was just gonna say, well, I ain't gonna worry about it. They can figure it out. I was gonna remind them that the code has changed. You know, some people
Where do you want me to put that? I can do that.
well, I put it out there. I was just gonna put it on my messenger group real quick.
Oh, go
Um,
ahead.
Okay. All right. Hang on just one second.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably all panicking right now, going,
Well,
"Oh
or
my God,
not.
why can't we get in there?"
They could be, or they could just forgot about it. Okay, let's
Mhm.
see here. Okay, here we go.
Definitely a meaty Bible study.
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
that's good. We want to learn, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm in that group.
Yes, you are. Okay. Okay, here we go. We'll just go ahead and start. So this is day two. God makes himself known. And it says, in an idol worshiping culture, God made himself known. So let's just go ahead and start at the beginning. So we're still with Abram and Abraham. Y'all remember that? In fact, some of it I
Hmm.
thought this sounds like what we just talked about last week. But anyway, so let's just start with one. This is Genesis 12. So if you don't have the book and you're just happen to just say, who's this woman and what are they talking about? So we're going to start in Genesis 12, and this book is called Discovering Jesus in the Old Testament. And so here we go. And then we'll do our prayer request at the end. Does that sound good? So the first question says in Genesis 12:1, what happened to Abram? And then it says, what would God make of him? And then how did he respond? So who wants to answer the first one?
Lord spoke to him.
Okay. And then what would God make of him? So the first thing
Great
he said,
nation.
why don't we read that verse? Okay. It says, the Lord has said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Okay.
Hmm.
And then what does verse 2 say? Or y'all
And
got
I
your
will
Bible
make
open?
you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing.
All right. Awesome. And then it says, how did he respond in and actually verse 3 finishes that. It says, I'll bless those who bless you, I'll curse those who curse you. Um, Whoever curses you, I will curse, and all the people on the earth will be blessed by you. It's huge, isn't it? That everybody on the earth is going to be blessed by Abraham. I mean, why? Because his son, Jesus, ended up coming
Hmm.
from that, right? Okay. So then verse 4, someone read that if you got your Bible open.
So Abraham went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran.
Okay. So what did he do? He basically, the Lord told him that you're going to leave where you live. So if it came up and said, Maureen, you're leaving Commerce Township. You and your family and your father's household are going to leave. I'm going to tell you later where you're going. Pack up.
Hmm.
He's
Roger,
75.
Roger would already have the bags packed.
He's 75 years old, and that's what he's doing, right? So,
Yeah.
but what did he do? He obeyed. So he
Hmm.
said he got up, he did what he told him, and he went with it, and he got his Lot with him. That's his nephew, and he was 75 years old when they left. Okay. So it says, unlike the idols, this God spoke. He promised to bless Abraham. Abraham hadn't done anything to earn his favor yet. In fact, until then, he and his family worship idols. And I'm like, I didn't really
Me
know
too.
that. I mean, is
Hmm.
that true? I guess it is. But
Hmm.
that's the culture that they lived in at that point. But I don't know about that. I'm just saying.
I never heard that before. I underlined and highlighted that myself.
Yeah. So
Well, it said that he lived in Ur. that's what they all did there.
Right. I mean, so that is true. He did live in Ur, and that's what the people in Ur did. So
Mm.
there is a possibility that he could have worshipped idols, I guess, you know.
Did.
But anyway, what we do know is that he was 75 years old and his wife was 65. He married young. And so he had a wife 10 years younger. And so then number 5 said, knowing their ages, how do you think a promise of a child affected this childless couple at this point in their life, even at 75 and 65?
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think?
I said they were confused, maybe. Is this really God? It doesn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah.
They were probably having a pure panic attack, even though they wanted it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they probably didn't believe. They probably were totally awestruck and wondering if they were crazy or if the Lord was crazy.
Right. I mean, they might have just wondered if God just forgot about them. I mean, they told him this a long time ago, right? So, anyway, so Abram and Sarai, this is before their name changed, finally reached Canaan. It says in Genesis 12:7 below, circle what the Lord did and underline Abram's response. So what did y'all circle for what the Lord did?
I will give you land.
Yeah, well, he
appeared.
appeared.
Well, yeah,
appeared.
right. Yeah.
Then he spoke to him, yes, and he said, I will give you this land. So then what did Abram do?
He built an altar to the Lord.
That's right. He built an altar to worship the Lord right then and there in Canaan. And if y'all remember the story, you know, we're going to go on and, you know, the story keeps going and we're going to go back and they're going to leave Canaan, but later they're going to want to come back. You know, if you remember, they left Canaan, they went to Egypt because of the famine and all that. And so anyway, but originally they were there. God's people were there. Okay. It says this visual manifestation of God, theophany, must have greatly increased Abram's faith right there, where actually he appeared to him. We don't know exactly how, right? We just know it says he did. So when God appears to you, you're gonna believe, right? That's gonna increase it. So I thought that was really good. And the next part it says God protects Abram and his loved ones. So Maureen, just read that little paragraph there. There was so much there.
Abraham's nephew Lot moved to a city called Sodom in a fertile valley, even though it was already known as a wicked place. The king of Sodom and 4 other kings went to war against another 4 kings. Sodom's 5 armies against 4 armies. Sodom's enemies defeated Sodom and captured the city, including Lot. Yeah, I had to read that twice. That was almost like a math question.
Well, it really was. It really was. Okay. And then it says when Abram heard, he's like, he got ticked off, right? So he took 318 of his men and pursued the armies of the 4 kings. And it says he defeated them and he rescued all of the prisoners, including his nephew Lot. Abram now saw tangible proof of God's promise to bless him in the land. So let's look at this covenant that they made. It says God makes a covenant with Abram. What happened to Abram in Genesis 15:1? So if we flip over there, Genesis 15:1. What does it say, y'all? It says the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. So he appeared to him, and now the word is coming in a vision. All right. And it says, what it says, do not be afraid, Abram, I'm your shield and your very great reward. Okay. It says, what did Abram still lack? What did he still not have, y'all?
Child. He was
Right.
childless.
Where is my baby?
Oh.
He didn't have him yet. Still, I mean, and then he's asking. He says, "I still remain childless." I mean, it says, "So you've given me no children, so a servant in my household will have to be my heir." But then the word of the Lord came and said, "This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." He was talking about Ishmael. He took him outside and said, "Look up at the sky, count the stars." As many as you see, that's how many offspring you're going to have. I mean, unbelievable, right? So, I
Hmm.
mean, he still keeps telling Abram, it's going to happen. You're just going to have to wait a minute, okay? All right, so let's go to number 8. It says in Genesis 15:6 below, underline Abram's response, circle what God counted as his belief. The first he refers to Abram, the second he refers to the Lord. So, whoever has your book, y'all read that verse right there. You got
He believed the Lord and he counted it to him as righteousness.
Okay. So it's good to know which he it is, right? So Abram believed the Lord, and God, counted it to him as righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he knows if Abram believed or not. I mean, because God's
Mhm.
God. He knew what he was thinking, right? Okay. So then once he knew that Abram believed, it says that night the Lord made a covenant with Abram. He said Abram's descendants would face affliction in a foreign land for 400 years, but he would bring them to Canaan to live as a nation. He told Abram to sacrifice some animals. Abram did so. He cut the animals in half. He laid the pieces in 2 lines, so there was a passageway between them. Ancients they call it cut a covenant, by walking in between the cut animal parts. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. Did y'all get that? It says, this is how God let Abraham know for certain the things he promised would come to pass. And at our church, we've been studying about sacrifices and different things. So this was common to cut the animals in half and put them each side, and then you light them up, But it says a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between all the pieces.
Mm.
So isn't that something, really?
Yeah.
If you look at that, I mean, that's something else. There was no doubt in his mind once he saw that, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just glancing at it in the Bible. That's exactly what it says. Okay.
Yeah, I just looked too.
Right. Are we saying the same thing? What's a smoking fire pot, right? We need pictures. um, so then it says, okay, but a decade in Canaan passed, still no baby. No baby. Sarai asked Abram to give a child through her maidservant, a common practice. The servant, now a wife, bore a child whom Abram named Ishmael. So before I said Ishmael, they weren't talking about Ishmael yet. They were talking about another kid. Okay, so Abram had a child Sarah said, hey, here's my maidservant. Maybe she can give you a baby. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do, right? And then it says he believed Ishmael was the child that God had promised. 13 more years passed. So Ishmael is 13. They got a little preteen, a little teenager running around still. I mean, they're thinking, well, I guess that's it. I mean, I'm about 100 now. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So what happened when Abram was 99 years old? Look at Genesis 17:1. Somebody read that.
When
Hey, Don.
Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and blameless.
Okay. He's telling him still to keep the faith, right? That's what it sounds like to
Hmm.
me. It said, why did God want Abram to walk before him and be blameless? So verse 2 says, go ahead, Maureen.
Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers.
Okay. And then it says, what did God change Abram's name to in verse 5? We talked about this last week.
Abraham,
That's right, Abraham.
Father
Because
Abraham.
Father Abraham, because it means father of many nations. So he changed it, right? And then it says, what did he change Sarah's name to in verse 15? From Sarai to
Sarah.
Sarah.
which means mother of many. Actually, I think I read somewhere else it means princess or something.
Yeah,
It's
in
mean
the
Yeah.
book,
princess.
that's
Yeah,
what she says.
that's what it said in the book, right? Oh, it's right there. It's right there under that question. That's right. That means princess. So it said, what had God made Abraham? What would God do for him in verse 6? So in verse 5 of chapter 17, it says, No longer will you be called Abraham, your name will be Abraham. Abram will be Abraham, for I've made you a father of many nations. So that's what it is. And then in verse 6, it says, I will make you fruitful, very fruitful. So I'll make nations of you, kings will come from you. Like he's just saying, I'm still going to do it, Abraham. I'm
Hang
still
in
going to do
there.
it. That's right. Just hang in there. So then the next part says the covenant had a sign of acceptance, and that was circumcision. Today we show that we accept the terms of a contract by signing our names. God told Abraham to show his acceptance of the covenant by circumcising all the men in his household and all the future baby boys. So we don't have to sit here and talk about circumcisions, I hope. But anyway, it wasn't like, it was a serious thing when someone made a covenant. That's what I want to
Mhm.
kind of bring out there. It says, what was God going to do for Sarah? Why did Abraham laugh? What did God affirm? And when would God's first promise be fulfilled? So what was God going to do for, he was going to make her the mother of,
Isaac.
Mhm.
well, yeah,
Was
but
it
many
Isaac?
nations,
Nations of
Oh,
nations.
Nation.
right.
Isaac for sure, but many nations. Yeah.
And bless her. It says
Yeah.
bless her.
Right. And that's in verse 16. I'll bless her. I'll surely give her a son. She'll be the mother of many nations. Kings of people will come from her. Um, in other words, it's not going to be your maidservant, Abraham. It's going to be your wife. Yeah. Okay. Why did Abraham laugh in verse 17? He
Because
felt
he
That's
was
how
going to be 100 and she was going to be 90 when he
yeah,
was born.
yeah. Yeah, it would be like if I told Selah today, I'm not 90, but if I said, Selah, guess what? I'm pregnant. She would laugh. She would think, are you Sarah? Okay. Um, okay, and then it says, what did God affirm in verse 19? So here we go. God's gonna name the baby for him. They ain't not even pregnant yet. Okay.
hmm
Your
I
wife
never
will,
realized that.
yeah, it says your wife will have a son, bear a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. All right.
Isaac means laughter.
Mhm.
Yes, I know,
I
right?
didn't know that. I didn't know that
Mm.
at all.
Yeah. Every time he said his name, he thought, I laughed at the Lord. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and then it says, when would God's promise be fulfilled? Verse 21. He said, this time next year,
Right.
you're gonna have a
Mm-hmm.
baby. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't even want 99, we want 100. We want 190, right? Um, so it says what? I mean, Isaac means he laughs, yes. Abraham showed he accepted the covenant by circumcising himself and all the men. When later Sarah heard their Lord repeat his promise, she laughed too. And that's when he said, look at verse 18, verse 14. It says, is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Just watch me.
Ma'am.
So, y'all, that's kind of, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, when you read these things in the Bible? It really is. So then again, we're going to go to chapter 21. In the meantime, lots of things were happening, but chapter 21, 1 year later, verse 2, what does it say, y'all?
And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age of time, of which God had spoken to him.
That's right. And then Abraham gave the name Isaac, just like
Isaac.
God said to, right? And he was circumcised when he was 8 days old. And so it says, how did this miracle affect Abraham's faith that God keeps his promise and nothing is too hard for him? Wouldn't you say that it would make Abraham more faithful and believe
Mm-hmm.
anything God said he's going to do? He did not
Because
have
of
to
the
doubt him
experience.
at
Mm-hmm.
all, right?
It
So
reminded me of the experience, like experiencing God. He experienced what God had said.
he did.
And yeah.
He did. So let's turn back a minute to page 30. It said little details at Isaac's age. And I have to tell you, when I read that, um, I had heard that too. Sometimes we think of a little baby boy, like our little 5-year-old that he's tying up to put on the altar. But if you look at all the things that it talked about there, um, the word is used as boy, but also young man. And so he said it's safe to estimate his age was 15 to 30 years old when God asked
Oh.
him to go binding. He could have been as old
Mm.
as 30,
Yeah.
because young man, if you live to 120,
Oh.
That
hey,
surprised
if you
me.
live to 63, 30 is kind of young. Right, Sayla? But anyway, had y'all ever thought about that?
No, I always thought he was a little guy.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
always thought that he was old enough to walk, like maybe
Yeah.
12 or 13. But
Mhm.
I never thought about him being possibly as old as 30.
Yeah, I guess we don't, we won't really know. They just could use about all the words that they used in the
Yeah.
Bible for that. So, but he did tell, yeah, he's old enough to walk, he's old enough to go and get the wood to put on the fire and all that. And I know that when I've seen, I don't know if it's movies or what about it, that like Isaac himself was faithful too, because he could have fought his daddy. And it doesn't
Mhm.
say in the Bible that he did. You know
Mm-mm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
So I guess we'll find that out when we get to heaven, right? Okay, then
Mhm.
on the other side, it talked about a covenant and a contract. Anybody underline anything over there or think of anything over there?
Mm-mm.
Anything stand out to you? Basically, it says a covenant is a chosen relationship between two parties ordered according to a specific promise. Like if you get married, both of you have to sign the marriage license before the little wedding or the big wedding. If you did not go to the courthouse and get that stuff signed, you can go get married, but it's not
Legal.
it's not legal until
Right.
you get it signed, right? If you go buy a house, you got to meet at the attorney's office and you got to sign. You can't go say, like, you go sign for me for this house. No, you have to do it. And your signature is a big deal. So these covenants that they made was even bigger because of all the things that they had to do, the sacrifices for it. They really meant it when they said it. Does that make sense? And
Mhm.
when we sign stuff and we say stuff, we need to mean it too, right? Okay, and
Mhm.
then it talked about this little details, human sacrifices in the day of Abraham. And that's when it looked right there, it says Abraham and his family worship other gods. So I wanted to look at that because remember we were talking about that and I did my lesson about a week ago. So I kind of forgot about this. Let's pull up that Joshua 24:2. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Look at that. I'm going to read it to you. It says, Joshua said to all the people, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates and worshiped other gods. So his
Mm.
family
Wow.
worshiped others' gods. There it is right there. Y'all, we know she don't make this stuff up. I mean, but I just
Mm.
never thought about that, right? So when it says Abraham's family worshiped other gods, his daddy, his uncle, and then it says, but I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates, led him through Canaan, and gave him many descendants. And talked about I gave him Isaac, And so, anyway, I just want to go over that again. And so, on this human sacrifice in Abraham's day, it just talked a little bit about that. That they did y'all see that they had an excavation and one pit had 70 human
Yes.
sacrifices arrayed.
Ugh.
So, what's really weird about this, y'all, is last night at church, um, they were talking about they had this big archaeological find in Ur. Have y'all heard about it at the Chaldees? You have, Selah?
So
Well,
I
they
have
found two things: a huge marble bathtub that
Oh, yeah.
was 5
Wow.
feet long, 2 feet wide, and I don't know how deep it was, but worth so much money that they dug up. And the other one was a marble, kind of like a
A
uh,
statue without the head or
statue.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Like a
That was in
column type.
Ur?
Yes, that was in Ur. And they were talking about it and they said, people really did live there. There really was an Abraham. They really did. People lived in houses. They were nice houses. We think of people in the Bible as living in the yard. Or I did. Sometimes you don't really think of them having a marble bathtub, right?
Uh-uh.
So it's just I've always been interested in archaeology when they find stuff like that.
Mm.
And it's pretty amazing, really. Anyway,
Wow. I didn't know
yeah,
that was in Ur.
yeah. That's what they said last night at church. When they
That's
were saying
awesome.
something about something they found at Ephesus, but I don't remember what it was. But anyway, so that's
It's
it
nice when
today.
it backs up our faith,
Yes, it
It
does.
does.
you know.
And that's
It
what he was
does.
saying. He says, when you see this stuff, and I'll tell you, when Brad and I went to Rome on the top director trip, that really, I mean, I have faith, but like when you're actually there where
Mhm.
the Apostle Paul
That's
was,
home.
I mean, you see statues of Moses. Somebody had to know what he looked like. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like
Wow.
it really did happen. This is the place that Paul was in prison, and we went to a church. We were just overcome. I mean, both of us. I'm
Mm,
not even kidding. We just started crying. It was just weird
mm,
how we felt when we were there. I would love to do one of those Holy Land
yeah.
things, wouldn't y'all?
Yes, I
Tours or
would.
Yeah.
whatever. So, well, listen, we will. I know, Latrice, you got to get to your
Yeah, I got to
meeting.
figure
We'll
out
see
how
you
to
in a
get on
minute.
again.